A coup attempt is taking place in Sudan. The Armed Forces Ministry has said in a statement that the army has detained the civilian Prime Minister, Abdel Hamdok, and taken him to an unidentified location. Social media shows images of several cabinet ministers from the transitional government, the Sovereign Council, being arrested. Internet links have been cut. Well, our senior Africa correspondent, Anne Soy, joins me now from Nairobi in neighbouring Kenya. And just give us the very latest. We're hearing reports of people certainly calling for resistance from people to this attempted coup.
That's right. Tensions are rising in Khartoum. Internet connectivity was shut down, and we are hearing now that mobile connectivity has also been cut off. People have been asked to come out, pro-democracy demonstrators, asked by the groups that have been leading them. These are the same groups that held protests that led to the overthrow of long-serving President Omar al-Bashir in 2019. They have been coming out in large numbers to the streets of Khartoum to protest against what they call a military coup. And they're saying that they're resisting any attempt by the military to take over power.
And we are seeing some images. Obviously, things have been very unstable for several weeks now. What is the sort of the fundamental argument behind this coup?
Well, so far, the military have not spoken. They haven't declared whether they have taken over control of the country. There has been no statement in the state media. They've been playing patriotic songs since 4 GMT. And this is really another sign of a coup. That's what normally state media does. We understand that some of the state media leaders have been arrested. We are waiting to see what happens. You have mentioned the Prime Minister being arrested. The Information Ministry has also confirmed that several other civilian leaders have been arrested. We also understand that includes members of the Sovereign Council, which is the ruling body that would be the equivalent of a head of state in a country. Now, tensions have been building up for weeks now. There was an attempted coup last month, which was thwarted. It was attributed to supporters of former President Omar al-Bashir. And then after that, we saw pro-military protesters coming to stage a sit-in outside the presidential palace, actually asking the military leaders to take over power from the civilian leaders, saying that the civilian leaders had failed. And then there was a counter-protest from pro-democracy demonstrators. So indeed, tensions are high in Sudan. This is no doubt a defining moment, whichever way it goes.
OK, Anne Soy, thank you very much indeed. Thank you. Well, Joseph Tucker is a senior expert for the Greater Horn of Africa at the US Institute of Peace, where he focuses primarily on Sudan and South Sudan. He told me more about the events that led up to today's coup.
Yeah, I think tensions had been growing exponentially, I would say, since June and July, if not before. Prime Minister Abdel Hamdok made an admission and sort of launched a new initiative to try to bring various political forces together on the civilian side, to note that the transition wasn't going as planned on political levels, on economic levels. And that increased a number of statements, of incidents that basically revealed increasing tensions among the security sector and among the civilians that came to a head, as your colleague mentioned, in September, with what was reported to be an attempted coup. Since then, war of words basically in the media has escalated. The past week, there was sort of dueling protests in Khartoum, a large show of support for the civilian government in Khartoum and outside of the capital. And I think just a real recognition that something has to give, so to speak, that there needs to be progress on the transition in a way that crystallizes the gains of the revolution. And I think a lot of civilians and political leaders are behind that, but there's a lot of tensions on both sides that I think led to this moment. I think it's still very much unclear exactly what aspect or what part of the military could be responsible for this. That's something to keep in mind as the hours and days unfold.
What is likely to be the concern within the region and from the US point of view?
I think, as we've seen in previous incidents in Sudan, really going back decades, there always has been a delicate balance among civilian political leaders, among military leaders, how they interact, both during times of democracy and during times of dictatorship. And that's always been a very delicate balance. So I think we'll be looking at how internal cohesion and consensus is among not only civilian political leaders, but among the street. I think there's liable to be a very strong, significant outpouring on the streets. We hear it's already happening right now in Khartoum. We hear there's already strikes and protests organized by some of the more significant unions in Sudan, including the Bankers Association. So I think that's one thing to keep an eye on as this goes forward. I think the international community is going to be looking at a real show of support from the street, which, the nonviolent protest has really been a significant aspect of the recent months in the past couple of years.